Okay, so now our problem is solved. I made some changes to this file. Okay, here I changed it some unused, I specified some unused IP, and then I set it like this because in application we cannot have like this. Either we can have it like this or maybe like this. Okay, and before this example I created many times demo services. I created one time demo services, excuse me. So I changed it to my service, and now I just recently created this file, and I created service slash my service. So what I rename it as demo service, and then I run this command again. Let's see what happened. It is invalid. Okay, so I'm again getting this problem. Cluster IPs. Okay, so the problem is that that is already allocated. So what I do that, wait a moment, my service. So I delete. Okay, it is deleted. Now I try to create it. Let's see what happens, and it is created. Okay, so if I want to see about this service, get svc demo service. Yeah, here we have got demo service, type is cluster IP. Okay, so its type is cluster IP, and if I describe it like what I would see, it is my application. See, this is my application. Okay, so same thing, my application, and 10.96.0.50, you can see 10.96.50. Okay, so yeah, these examples will certainly help us in future, especially that's why we are doing these examples. And yeah, so we are done with this example. Now we go through another example. Type of service, cluster IP. Okay, so this help in restricting the service within a cluster. It exposes a service within the defined Kubernetes. Okay, so this cluster IP is mainly helpful when we are dealing with, suppose there is a pod for packet service, and there is a pod for database. Okay, and in between we have a cluster IP. So what is the advantage? That suppose a pod is recreated, database pod is recreated. In that case, a backend pod must be using some kind of IP to communicate with the backend with the database pod. Okay, I explain you from this example. Wait a moment, please. Okay. Okay. Here we have got database pod. Okay. Here we have got backend pod. Backend pod. Database pod. And here we have cluster IP. Okay, cluster IP. Sorry, my diagram is not so good. Yeah, this looks better. So database pod, backend application pod is communicating with database pod via some IP address. Suppose I don't have this cluster IP. So what would happen, that there is a fixed IP address assigned to the backend pod, with which backend pod is communicating with the database pod. But suppose our pod get recreated, it is destroyed somehow due to some issue. In that case, I start getting error in backend also because it is not able to communicate with database pod. But this issue can be solved using cluster IP. Okay, this is one of the example of using cluster IP. We will certainly do an example on this thing. I'll do a complete project on this thing, but for simple explanation, I explained to you like this help in restricting the service within a cluster. So this is like within a cluster. Okay, this complete stuff is within the cluster. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So okay, what is node port? It also, this question also come into our mind because we deal with this definition many times. It exposes a service on a static port on deployed node. Okay, it exposes a service on a static port. Okay, we will also do example with this as a cluster IP service to load balancer. It uses cloud provider load balancer. So yeah, if we deal with load balancer, we can either use cloud provider load balancer, or we can also have some uh, locally installed load balancer. Okay, but preference is all most of the time preference is given to the cloud provider load balancers. Okay, so we have like node port and cluster IP services are created automatically to which external load balancer will route. So it means like wait a moment. So like this thing, this thing. I'm just drawing it for explanation purpose. Okay. So like we have got node port and cluster IP. Node port and cluster IP. Oh. Load balancer. I specified as LB because it looks better. Okay. So yeah, it route the traffic either to node port or cluster IP based on the requirement. Okay, based on the specification, I would say. Here is a full YAML file with service type as node port. Try to create one. Okay, we can create it and okay. So let's create another example of node port. Node port demo.yaml. Again I go here, I copy it. I assume it will not have issue. Okay, so node port demo, let's go. It is created. It is another service, I would say. Okay. App name get svc app name. Okay, so app name is created. It's of type node port and it's a cluster IP. Okay, so svc describe, so we can get more detailed about this service. Here we have got this more detail like Namespace is default, label is like a at as app name, and selector we have got nginx. Type is node port, same is here. Okay, this is the IP. And yeah, that much information we can get about this service. Hmm. So this is like basic tutorial, and it will certainly, okay, so I just mistakenly hit and try to create one yourself. Yeah, that's what we have created, and we will create some really big example using all these things so we can have better understanding of all this load balancer, node port, cluster IP. Okay, but a small example will certainly help us to understand the bigger concept. Okay, now we go through the pod. What is pod? We discuss a lot in Kubernetes. Okay, and I would say it must be the first topic, but somehow we discuss other topics first and then we are discussing this pod. Okay, so pod is a collection of containers and it is storage inside node of Kubernetes cluster. It is possible to create a pod with multiple containers inside it, keeping a database container, data container in the same pod. There are two types of pod, single container pod or multi-container pod. I prefer to use single container pod, and there are some reasons behind it. First reason, I see that if I have to scale up application, in that case multi-container pod are not so performant. That's what I have experienced. Okay, so single container pod is a preferred choice of mine, and but for demo I could also consider using multi-container pod. Okay, okay, yeah, here is an example of single container pod. Like, they can simply create with kubectl run command, where you have defined image on docker registry, which we will pull while creating a pod. So when we create a pod, we have to specify image, and that image must be present in the docker registry. Okay, it could be docker hub or some other registry which we use. So we'll create a pod using tomcat image, which is available on docker hub. So let's copy this command and run it. Let's see what happens. Invalid name. Okay, why? Maybe this is a space is a reason. Okay. Ah, this pod is created. Describe pod tomcat. Oh, we got a lot of information about it. Describe pod tomcat. Okay. So this is the name of pod. Okay, start time is 27th May 1413. Okay, and status is pending. Container is creating. Okay, this is the status of this pod. Okay, so it is successfully pulling images from docker hub to minikube. Okay, so yeah, so far things are quite okay. This can be done by creating the YAML file and then running the kubectl create. Okay, I think this is for this command. We can either use this thing also, we can also directly run it the way I ran. Okay, but from Kubernetes perspective, this is a better way. Okay, so if I create a pod like this, okay, okay, so I just have to fix it. So I create a tomcat pod demo YAML. I put it like this and clear screen, kubectl create. Okay, so here it is already existing. Okay, so first I have to delete a pod. Only then I can recreate the same pod. Okay, delete Tomcat. I did not mention pod, so that is the reason not is deleted. I hope so. Okay. Yeah, something was hanging, I think. Okay, so it might take some more time. Let's see. So this pod is not deleted. Okay, that's the problem. So first I delete this pod and let's see how much time it takes. Ah, I think it is deleted. Okay. Now I can create pod using this command also. Okay. Now if you want to describe it, same thing like describe pod tomcat, and see we have got this information, and yeah, we have got container port as 7500. Let's see. I think container port information is not available here. Yeah, it is available, 750. Okay. So yeah, we can describe using describe command. We can get more information about the pod, and this kind of information is really helpful when we are dealing with like some error or some other issues. Okay. So yeah, we are done with this example. Okay, and I think I did this example. No, not this one. Sorry, this one. Yeah. I did this example and it will create the pod with the name of Tomcat. We can use the describe command along with kubectl to describe the pod. Okay, that's what we did. Okay, now I do multi-container pod example. Okay, so let's do multi-container pod example. Multi. No, first I format my multi container pod demo.yaml. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what happened. Okay, it already exists. So first we delete this pod, and then we delete this pod, or I could rename the pod. Yeah, multi demo. Yeah, I can put it like this. Let's see what happened. Yeah, this demo is created. This and then let's describe. Let's see what we can see in describe and how it is multi-container pod. And the kubectl describe Tomcat demo. Okay. Ah, Of course it will not show me because I did not mention the type of resource. Okay. So it is too much information I'm getting. Tomcat demo status is pending. First thing is multi-container. It means it must have Tomcat, it must have database. Does it have? Let's see. MongoDB, yeah. We have one container, MongoDB, another container is Docker, is Tomcat. So yes, we can see two different containers, and status is this, like type status pod ready to start containers. And so far I don't see any problem here, but yeah, failed to apply default image tag, couldn't parse image MongoDB. So it means I created some issue with this. Okay, so failed to apply default image tag MongoDB, must be in the lower case. Yeah, now I fix this problem first. So nowadays best technique is warning. Okay. No, invalid image name. Yes. Best thing is to copy it and see, ChatGPT is not always good. Let's fix this problem first.